And just the fact that they're now saying that transgenderism is somehow healthcare, and that we need to have our tax dollars go to supporting somebody mutilating their body. People today think this is somehow cool, and that it's really awesome to go and get a gender change. And the truth is that there are only male chromosomes and female chromosomes. There is no it chromosomes. And just the word it is degrading to another human. But if they're not a male or a female, what are they?
There it is, Beavis. When I look at that, I see fat stacks of cash.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. It's too high, butthead.
Try knocking it down with this big fork thing.
Okay.
Ugh! That's what you're doing, asswipe.
Yeah, sorry.
Ow!
Considering that plastic takes forever to decompose and we've basically built a new mini continent from all of our discarded plastic and the tiny version of plastic that's in our blood.
Wow, that blew my mind!
Good morning. There we go. Good morning, my beauties and bees, and welcome to another installment of Live from the Hive. I had a whole cosplay plan for this morning, but no, wasn't happening. I'm not really feeling it this morning, honestly. I was out with my friend last night, and we got pretty hammered, and I'm feeling it this morning. We had fun, but I guess I'm not the only one not feeling it. We got Saturday morning here that's kind of sleepy and dreary, and my I guess I haven't been outside. It might be sunny out, but I feel dreary because of my because of my condition. But yeah, I had the coffee pot overflow on me a second ago while I was going to try to get cleaned up, and time flew by, and next thing I know, it's time to go live. Goodness, and here we are. We are live, and people are popping in. Good morning, everybody. We had a goddess here bright and early. And Purple Owl showing up, alias fake name, my unfinished journey, Sapphire Sorceress, Deep Arcs, Pink Platypus, and Who's Your Buddy? Yeah, so we have people showing up. No, I had like I'll give spoilers. I was gonna do Harley Quinn. I have a Harley Quinn. It's got a Harley Quinn wig, and someone got me a Harley Quinn dress. I got some Harley Quinn booty shorts from my birthday. I was probably gonna wear the dress and not the booty shorts though. The booty shorts I was gonna wear with that little red top that I got that has little strappy things on it. And that looks enough like Harley, but yeah, I didn't. Good morning, Melissa. There's my party buddy right there. I can't believe you got up early enough for this, honey. I think you were a little more lit than I was. Maybe not though, because you can handle stuff a little better than I can. Oh, to be young. But thank you. Who's your buddy? Yeah, I just kind of threw this look together. I'm like, you know what? Maybe a goth girl with a big butterfly on her chest. Got the butterfly. I guess I do have a motif. Well, if I hide my spider, maybe the spider gets the butterfly. I don't know. Barely awake. Hydrate, honey. Hydrate. All right, let's go on to the polls. Who's ready for polls? Let's do this. All right, give me just a second, because of course. Oh. Was it hidden? Ah, come on. Why you gotta be like that? Oh, that's... I hate when it falls into itself like that. It's like, all right. Well, morning, people are starting to roll in. It's good to see y'all. So, for our high strangeness this week, the choices were, we got the time traveler's tale. We're going to look at some time traveling incidents. We'll probably do like a short list of them when we do that episode. Crystal skulls on here. We've talked about crystal skulls before, but we focused on specifically that one that loopy new age girl has. And the guy was all like hitting on her and stuff and couldn't even focus on the skulls. What was her name? I can't even remember. She was hot though. She was super hot. That was one of the main things, that she was like super hot. Then we got the Planet X. Narubu is what some people call it, but I like Planet X better. But we're gonna talk about that mysterious hidden planet that's causing all kinds of chaos in the universe. But not today, because today we are talking about Montauk's mystery. If that doesn't sound familiar to you, you got to stick around to the second segment of the show. I knew that was going to happen any second now. The alarm went off to say, hey, make sure you're doing the polls. But I'm already on the polls, so it doesn't even matter. But yeah, we're doing Montauk Mystery. But if you don't know what that is, you have to stick around for the second half of the show. The show is divided into two halves. We got High Strangeness today, and the other half is Cryptic Corner, which is how we start our show every Saturday, because it's my favorite subject, and I hope it's your favorite subject too. All right, so with Cryptic Corner, the polls, we had our sea serpent here, Cadborosaurus, new kid on the block. Didn't pull many votes this week, but we'll see how they do next week. Then we have the Ghost of Gettysburg. Also, it didn't pull strong this week, but that's our ghost topic that's on the polls. I like to try to keep like a ghost, an alien, a cryptid, and a monster all together. Or like when I say monster, I mean like aliens, I guess would be a better way to describe it. Which describes our next character just great because we got the Flatwood monster on the list. She's the baddie of the cryptid world, and when we get to her, we're gonna look at some freaking amazing art of this character, of this creature. The winner, after being on the polls for a whopping, I think it's been 8 weeks, maybe longer, the Brazilian ape won today, the Mono Grande, which we're gonna get into in just a moment. The polls. So let me show you how to go to the polls. So if you go to my main page, which is just youtube.com/Bree_Hive, right? And you'll get to my main page like this. It should look something like this. It'll be customized for you, for any individual, but it should look something like this, right? And then you go here, and then there's posts over here. And post will, and it's showing me the live thing right there, but post will bring you to this section right here. You have to scroll down sometimes, but there shouldn't be more than a half a dozen. Right here. So, and then these will be open to vote. My polls open generally on Sundays. If my Sundays get busy, they happen on Mondays. Don't get too hungover to cosplay or do. I'm not your mom. Either way, like and share the stream. Yeah, Melissa, who you see in the side chat there, is helping me with my drag stuff. Where we got some foam stuff to do my hips with, but it was kind of too thin. So it's too thin. So we're probably gonna get some more. Because if you're gonna do it, you better sell it, right? So I'm gonna get maybe some thicker foam next time I'm in the store, and we're going to have. Hey, Alira, I'm glad you're able to start the day with us. How's things going in your neck of the woods? What is it? It's in the evening there, isn't it? Oh, so I have to drink my coffee. I'm never gonna get going. All right, so that's how you do the polls. That's basically what I got going on today. I usually go to the block party after the show on Saturdays. I think I might sit this one out. Yesterday was a busy day. I went and saw the new Spider-Man movie. And then I went and had a really important doctor's appointment that I've been trying to get things moving forward on. And then I went to Melissa's and hung out for the night. It was a fun day. It was busy, so I might sit out the block party this afternoon. Siobhan's not there. She's usually who I ride with. There's another person that can give me a ride, but I'm not feeling it. So anyway, I'm ready. Well, it's not quite time to move into Cryptic Corner. We're gonna move in there early. But that's all right. We'll have let's do a musical interlude. We might do a couple songs since we're early. And I'm going to go off camera and smoke some weed because I usually want to save the weed for high strangeness, but I got to get going this morning. I got to get my brain moving. I'm on half speed. Yes, at 6 p.m. I came back home to watch your show. Yes, Melissa wants me thick. She's made a executive decision when we looked at the foam last night that they weren't thick enough. So, anyway, yeah, here, have a musical interlude, and I'll be back with you with Cryptic Corner in just a minute.
Just open your mouth and let it say whatever it wants to say. Hi. What I got to do? Now my Goropo umalala jegle dishnu. Nakorob ay tilumasa mahata. Moragadini, namakute, temanese. Goropo umalala jegle dishnu. Nakorob ay tilumasa mahata. Oh, nagane, hey, oh, malahana na. Bakalada ba shigler ba? I just pray that la 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 la. Schakrate is mon kumbula va stak zatske. La 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 la. Ruchan işte buraya kırmışsınız. La 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 la. I just pray that la 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 la. Moragadini, namakute, temanese. Goropo umalala jegle dishnu. Nakorob ay tilumasa mahata. Moragadini, namakute, temanese. Goropo umalala jegle dishnu. Nakorob ay tilumasa mahata.
What the fuck, bro?
Systems, the company store, the paradigm of absolute control. And that's why we're just out here doing simple things, pointing out that we're meant to be in nature and be natural. And this is where we find the source that God made to transcend the New World Order. And that's why they want to try to keep us out of it.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people. They're a bunch of Christian murder scum. They're on giant death factories keeping babies alive and selling their body parts. What more do you need to know about these people? I go out and face these scum. They literally crawl out from under rocks. They have green looking skin and they run around screaming, "We love Satan, we wanna eat babies." I have them on video. Hillary's in the creepy, weird, sick-stuffed man. She sleeps in the same room with that creepy, weird woman whose mother wears a hood over her head. What the hell? That woman number one is ugly. Imagine how bad she smells, man. I'm told her and Obama just stink. Obama and Hillary both smell like sulfur. Literal vampire pipe and the goblins are hobbling round coming after us. My spirit gets close to that evil and I feel it go. We're such self-centered crap we don't even notice, and it's self-rising up against us. Millions of poor-in people of the very worst type, and I'm so pissed. We're gonna stab your daughter at the mall. We're gonna stab your wife, your son. We're gonna stab you with a butcher knife, and then the police chief is gonna say, "We love our Somalis, we love our Muslims. Oh, they're so good, oh, they're so sweet."
Fucking, like I said, I'm not with it this morning. Thank you so much. As I was saying, good morning, my beauties and bees. Welcome to another installment of Cryptic Corner, where we explore the unexplained, the supernatural, the paranormal and hidden, the mysterious, the alien, the accursed, and the forbidden. I'm your host, Miss Bumblebee, and today we are finally, we've done a lot of weird stuff here lately, but we're like really getting back into core classic antique cryptids. I'll call them antique cryptids because we're talking about the Brazilian ape, or the Mano Grande. Yeah. And of course, I'll have to cut that out. That's going to cost me extra editing. That's my own damn fault, though. But thank you for the alert, Aunt Jer. I was, live when I shouldn't have been, and then muted when I shouldn't have been. I can't get a but the Mano Grande is it's not anything too special, really. It's an ape from the Amazon. Except for apes don't live in the Amazon. It'd be kind of like having an elephant from the Amazon or a tiger from the Amazon. Although traditionally they did call the jaguar the Brazilian tiger. That was its name for a minute. And in Spanish, you can still see that in a lot of place names and a lot of names for things, too. But let's look at the Mano Grande for a second. Let's have a look at this guy. So, some depictions of it are, like, pretty traditional Bigfoot style. Smaller. Definitely smaller. Mano Grande is a large monkey-like creature that has been occasionally spotted in South America. Such creatures are reported as being larger than commonly accepted New World monkeys. So, yeah, not specifically large, but yeah, larger than New World monkeys anyway. The accounts have received rather little publicity and typically generate little or no interest from mainstream experts, but have received some notice in cryptozoology, which is what we're here to do today. So, cryptozoology. Yeah. So, older reported sightings. Perhaps the first formal record of such creatures, called Marimondas or Maribundas, come from 1533 when Pedro Cisa de Leon, that's actually not too bad, reported sightings from the natives from one Spanish settler. But how do you know those natives weren't describing like a big spider monkey? They could have been. Let's see. The German naturalist Alexander von Humboldt, from the Humboldt Sea and Humboldt squid and all that. The Humboldt, I think there's I don't want to speculate. Is there there's lots of Humboldt animals, but I can't think of any besides the squid right off the top of my head. German naturalist who traveled to South America during the 19th century heard stories from Orinoco about furry human-like creatures called Savaji. I'm betting it's Savaji. Just because of the nature of the language, which, according to Humboldt, were rumored to capture women, build huts, and occasionally eat human flesh. But the superstitious natives and the missionaries in the area believed these stories, but Humboldt recognized similar myths from the Old World and concluded that that the stories had entered South America from Europeans, which is probably a good assessment. The cryptozoological, cryptozoologically, that's a big old word, cryptozoologically interested naturalist Philip Goss also tried to examine these legends during his travels in Venezuela during the mid-19th century, but with no real success. All right, then we're getting into Delois Ape. And for Delois Ape, I got a good picture of these, though. For Delois Ape, we are going to go out to a channel called Unknown Territory, and we're going to look at their take on this. Before we do, let's have a quick go, just a look through their main page. Got Legend of Boggy Creek. We got good old Albert Ostman telling his story about being kidnapped by Bigfoot. Ooh, look, we have the Pwopin Devil Pig, which they speculate is a giant ground sloth, especially in this picture. Yeah, so let's go. The Unknown Files. Unmute that. Let me know if that's too loud.
This picture. Back when I was a youngin', I remember scrolling through a book I took out of the library about monsters and myths, reading all I could about the mythical creatures from all different cultures around the world. Then I turned the page and immediately saw this picture. Don't ask me why, but it gave me the creeps at the time. Maybe it's the dead look in the creature's eyes or the unnatural way it's propped up by a makeshift stick. It just gave me the heebie-jeebies. As I got older, I learned more about this particular photograph, which in turn would go on to be...
This is a male spider monkey, based on all the proportions that I can see. We'll get into that.
Become one of the greatest cryptozoological hoaxes of all time.
Yes, it finally won. It's been on the polls forever, Alira.
And the vibrations and rumblings of which can still be felt in the field today.
The Delois Ape.
In the early 1900s, a Swiss oil geologist by the name of Francois Delois, surveying a remote region of America, would allegedly come across an odd finding that would shake the world of zoology at the...
Yeah, some of those poses that they do back in the early half of the 20th century with their kills, once cameras became more readily available. I guess even the older ones than that, the 19th century ones, are maybe even a little more crude because, you know, they were the cameras and everything were rough, and it does make them look weird. But most of the ones I think of that look weird or disturbing of people holding things are from like the early 20th century to maybe like the 1970s. Like some of the 70s stuff with people holding, with like Bushmen holding gorilla remains and stuff are super discomforting. And maybe it's because primates look so much like us. Like when you look at this, let's I'll roll it back. Where are we at? 125. That should be easier. Let's roll it back. You look at this and we see ourselves, right? We see shoulders and we see arms and elbows and hands. We see, legs. You see actual male genitalia there, mouth and eyes, and it's sitting like a person would on a crate, but it's not a person. So it hits that uncanny valley plus the discomfort of seeing a dead animal. It checks a lot of boxes to make it super disturbing. Actually, let's see if I can make that so you can see the top of the head too. But boom, 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 boom. Oh no, it's not gonna allow it. Lame. Mixed everything up. I got my patrons down there. There we go. All right.
Of which can still be felt in the field today.
We're at one.
Hoaxes. From 1917 to 1920, Deloys was in the process of searching for petroleum along an isolated stretch of mostly uncharted jungle.
I like to put stuff like this just on my on the TV screen or on one of my computer screens just going. It's kind of like peaceful to watch somebody walk through a mossy forest like that with ferns and overgrown trees. Yeah.
In an area near Lake Maracaibo, on the border of Colombia and Venezuela, along with an expedition of 20 people. It would prove to be a disastrous expedition, as in the process of going through mosquito-choked, nearly impenetrable jungle inhabited by aggressive natives, only 4 of the expedition would make it out of the wilderness alive. Although the expedition had met up with tragic circumstances, it's mostly known for an alleged curious encounter and the even more curious photograph. During this exhausting and dangerous expedition, the group made their way to the shores of the...
You know, I've never looked. I wonder what the other pictures from the Delois expedition look like.
...remote Tara River, where they set up camp. It was here, along the shores of the river, that Delois would claim that 2 strange reddish primates, one male and one female, would emerge from the jungle to approach the expedition. They were described as very large monkeys, standing around 1.57 meters tall, only without tails and walking about in an unusual upright bipedal manner. The 2 mystery primates were said to have been bold and seemingly a bit...
Yeah, when you look it up, it doesn't bring any other pictures from the expedition up. I do find that curious. But I might look further into that and see if anybody's been able to dig any up, like further back in the archives. But we got some deep sleuthing to do today, so... Oh, goodness. Thank you so much, Alira. Alira has granted us 220... I don't know, it's the Turkish money. Thank you so much. Good morning, Blue Fur Lady. I'm so happy to see you live again. I would buy you a real cup of coffee if I were there, but I hope you like virtual ones. I can't send memberships anymore because YouTube raised the price. Oh, you're okay, babe. That's no problem. You don't have to give memberships if you don't want to. You don't have to give donations if you don't want to. I'm just happy to have you here watching. As I think most people are aware, there's been like a little bit of a schism in my community, and like most of my audience is kind of backed away. So I'm glad you're still here. I'm glad there's a lot of people still here. I really appreciate y'all. The most important thing for this, and the only reason I do it, is because people come to watch. I'm not doing it for gift memberships or super chats. I mean, if you're able and willing, hell yeah, give me some donation money. I appreciate it. There's a lot of ways you can help out the Hive. You can like what Alira just did there with the donating directly with a super chat. You can do gift memberships, which gives people in the that have watched the channel a membership. And a lot of times that lures them to come back in and say hi, right? They'll pop into the side chat again because they're basically getting mentioned in a membership post. Other ways, I have a Patreon. You can see like the Patreon's running up above here. Those are people that support me on Patreon. My patrons, I guess. You get your name up there if you want to support that way. There's merchandise for sale down below. With like my Mothman. I was wearing that yesterday. I thought about just wearing it today, but I had a plan for a cosplay today. I was wearing my Mothman Cryptic Corner shirt, and it makes me like look. It fits me really good. You will like these tank tops, the way that they fit and the way they hug and how they breathe. You will love them. And they got Mothman on the back, which you can't go wrong with. Or you can support directly with the Buy Me Coffee link that the Bugbot drops, and it'll let you give me donations directly. So lots of ways to support the Hive and lots of ways to get stuff in return for it. Yeah, and there's also my adult links, which BugBot will drop occasionally. All right, let's go.
Perturbed at the presence of humans in the jungle domain, howling and waving their arms about wildly. As they...
Oh, I gotta cut back in already. Turkish lira is what that's called. Thank you for the Turkish lira donations. Let's get back to walking in the woods.
Approached closer, the two creatures reportedly became even more aggressive, defecating into their hands and flinging the excrement at the startled men of the expedition. The increasingly frightened men soon decided that things had gone far enough and fired upon the strange ape-like creatures, killing the female and sending the male to run away into the thick underbrush. Deloise was fascinated by the whole ordeal, having never seen...
I'm kind of curious as how it was the female that was shot and the male that ran away, but the one they have on display is very obviously male, right? Yeah, I was just checking that because I saw that it wasn't pulling anything up for the coffee. Yeah, it should be Kofi. BugBot's not connected. Hold on. Okay, try it now. It should work now.
Seen such large monkeys before in South America, and certainly...
You can't defecate on command, Antjer? Oh. Well, I do think that's a normal thing for spider monkeys to do, though, is to do that because their hands are kind of built for it. They're like cups. It's like a whop. There we go.
Only none that had no tails and walked around like men. Although the jungles were crawling with monkeys, there had never been any species of ape in South America, and this is exactly what the creatures seemed to be.
And there's a good reason for that, because we see cursorial animals making that interchange between Asia and, hold on, we'll go to the map. We got that camp here already. Just that's gonna be later. But you get up here, and there's a reason why cursorial animals might be when this was dry land might make this journey, but because of the high altitude, there's not going to be tropical forest. The tropical forest, we talked about this with the tigers. The tigers the Siberian tigers aren't necessarily tropical, but they definitely don't live in the Arctic or even really in the subarctic region. They live in the high altitude temperate zones and things like that, sure, but they're not living up in the tundra. So only things that could survive off basic tundra grass or subarctic scrubland, things like that are going to be able to make this journey. Like Gigantopithecus did not make this journey. People talk about Bigfoot, which is cited over here, being a Gigantopithecus, which lived down here. It makes no sense because they'd have to migrate. And the same with any kind of ape. Any ape at all are the only apes that aren't, I misspoke. The only apes that aren't completely dependent on tropical forest are us, right? Every other known ape is dependent on tropical forest except for our specific genus, yeah. And I would say that you can maybe say something like that for Australopithecus, but they were long gone and they never even made it out of Africa. So to say that Bigfoot is descendant from anything other than, because the only things that will make this journey, the only apes that will make this journey are in our genus. So Bigfoot, if it exists, it has to be in the Homo genus. It has to be, or maybe we can make it its own genus after studying it. But good to see you, Sandals. I think the part of West Alaska was frozen, and people and other animals passed it that way too. Yeah, they walked on ice and stuff too, but there had to be enough food to make the journey. They had to be able to sustain themselves. You're talking herds of elephants and camels and horses and stuff. They all made this journey. They absolutely did. And there were this down here was rich with islands at the time. You can kind of see where there would have been like land that would have come all the way down here. So this would have been like an inland sea, and this would have been a ridge, like a mountain ridge. Right, and there's another ridge that ran down this way. So this landmass was a lot bigger than you think, and this area down here was more like southern Alaska, which is not too bad. It's pretty temperate. So this journey, especially along the southern fringes here, was not so bad. And we're not talking about Pleistocene journeys. That's when humans did it, and that's when it was super frozen. There were even when things were when things were not so, well, I shouldn't say not so cold. They were the climate was different, and the planets were the planet was shifted where this was more south, actually, or more southerly. This area would have been even more passable, but it was never tropical forest. It was never forest at all, as far as I'm aware. This is, I mean, I could see maybe some forest coming down into here, because the way it is in Alaska here, because that dark green's all forest. We're not the type of forest that would support an ape. Anyway, I digress. We need to keep going.
Further examination of the corpse would show that it had a human-like tooth count of 32 teeth rather than the 36 more common to the New World monkeys of the region. In fact, the creature was profoundly different from any known South American primate. Confused, Deloys had the strange ape propped up on a crate with a stick wedged under its chin and took a series of photographs of it, after which he had it skinned in order to preserve the hide and skull.
Well, that's much more affordable than the weekend market there, Melissa. You all have fun.
As physical evidence of the encounter. As the expedition pressed further into the vast wilderness and met with more hardship and perils, it said that all the photographs but one were lost, and that the group was forced to get rid of the skin and skull of the creature for some unknown reason. All that would remain was a single photo of the ape sitting on the crate. Deloys...
Yeah, why would they throw away their rotting monkey corpse while they travel through the sweltering jungle with everybody dying of disease and being attacked by natives? Why would they throw away the rotting monkey corpse?
would survive the deadly expedition which has killed most of his men by now, and when he'd returned home to Europe, he would not give another thought to the matter of the strange ape they had shot.
I was just talking about Pangea to Samantha yesterday, so explaining why, talking about the Himalayas, and I get into talking about the Indian subcontinent. Yeah.
It wasn't until 1929 that an anthropologist by the name of George Montauk would come across the photo of the beast while sifting through Deloys' records in an attempt to hunt down information on the indigenous tribes of the region. Montauk thought the photograph to be of great zoological and anthropological importance, maybe evidence of a South American ape or some sort of hominid, which led him to pursue study of the creature. Deloys finally came forth with his strange account in the Illustrated London News of June 15, 1929, which would be followed by several legitimate scientific articles on the matter, and would lead to the creature allegedly acquiring the scientific name Ameranthropoides loysi, which was suggested.
Yeah, it had its own scientific name. It got pretty deep into it.
Suggested by Montauk himself. With all the talk of this amazing new discovery and the scientific naming of a new South American ape based on a single photograph, there was immediate skepticism that spread across the scientific.
But it doesn't even look like an ape. If you look at the, I'm gonna do some monkey business here, so bear with me. If you look at the nostrils of this ape, alleged ape, the monkeys are divided into two groups. Right, there's two groups. After they split off from the prosimian, like lemurs and stuff like that, there's two sections of, or there's two groups of monkeys, and we're in one of them. We're monkeys, right? Humans are monkeys. So they split into two groups. They split into the platyrrhines and the catarrhines. And this was when Africa... Oh, more about continental drift. Hold on, let's do this. All right. Where were we? Where's my map? There we go. All right. We got to go all the way around the opposite quarters of the world. So, when Africa and South America drifted apart, the monkeys that survived on either side of that division were separated. And on one side you have the Platyrrhines, and on the other side you have the Catarrhines. The Catarrhines aren't just, to be clear, they aren't just in Africa though. They live all over the old world, because they rode on this over to, but anyway, we could talk. That's what I was talking about. They're riding on India and making their way into the Southeast Asia. But we need to get back over here. So there's a distinction between the two, and it's the direction of the nostrils. While our nostrils, as old world monkeys, like chimpanzees and orangutans and baboons and Barbary apes and gibbons, everything, they all have nostrils that point down. Whereas New World monkeys, Platyrrhines, basically what I think, the way I remember it is plat is like flat, and they have a flat muzzle with vertical or rounded forward facing nostrils. And it's because the way that they interact and the way their chemoreceptors function, their smell, basically. They want to, let's be blunt about it. They want to be able to stick their noses in each other's butts. So, anyhow, the apes of the old world are catarrhines. So all apes are catarrhines, including you and me. Our nose sticks down especially far among primates. And then you get into the New World monkeys, and they have this very distinct muzzle, which we very much see when we look at the Deloitte ape.
The community. Several red flags were apparent from the get-go. First was the fact that there was only one photograph of this mystery ape. Deloitte claimed that more had been taken, but they'd been lost on the ill-fated expedition. It was also claimed that the hide and skull of the creature, which would have settled the matter once and for all, had indeed been kept, but that they had lost it due to accidents, decomposition, and the fact that the skull had been corroded away by being used as a container for salt. The lack of any remains meant it was impossible to physically verify what the primate was, or corroborate Deloitte's claims about its tooth count.
You all familiar with the aquatic ape theory? Someday I'll put that on the high strangeness list, and we'll have you vote to watch some aquatic ape proponent stuff. It gets pretty wild.
Furthermore, the photo itself was highly suspicious. The creature had only been photographed from the front, making it impossible to determine if it had a tail or not, which could have been hidden or even cut off, and there was little apparent in the photograph to give a sense of scale, so the true size could not be determined. Making things worse was the fact that many published versions of the infamous photograph had been cropped in such a way as to make the ape look more enigmatic and mysterious, and with the vegetation in the background removed. Later research would cast more suspicion on the photograph, when what appears to be the stump of a banana tree was noticed on the right side of the photo. Since banana trees are not native to the jungles of South America and would certainly not have made their way to this isolated area, this observation casts doubt on whether the photo was even taken where Deloitte claimed to begin.
Yeah, this may have been taken at the beginning of their expedition for all we know. It might have been in a village or something that's been colonized, and the natives, or even anybody could have shot this primate. Right?
In addition to all these suspicious factors, there were naturalists who stated the obvious, that the primate in the photo looked exactly like a spider monkey, of which there were many species in the region and were very, very common. Although spider monkeys are
I
smaller
love spider monkey's hands. They're all like.
than the purported size of the ape and have very prominent tails, the condition of the photograph makes it impossible to determine the size and possession of a tail with the mystery creature. To be fair, Deloys himself did very little to play up the mystery factor of the creature in the photo, remaining rather quiet about the whole thing, and indeed only mentioning it once in the article for the Illustrated London News entitled "Found at Last, the First American," which was a rather bold sensationalist piece expounding on how the missing link had been found in South America. Indeed, the publication was reminiscent of a tabloid of the time. Even in this case, Deloys was pressured into doing the article by Montauk. In fact, Deloys was generally rather reluctant to discuss the matter of...
I don't know if this... I haven't watched this all the way through. It's pretty short, but I'm wondering now if he is going to if he's going to explain the racist notion of that being the first American, because Montauk was a eugenics, one of the prominent proponents of eugenics in his day, and he wanted to prove multi-origins for the human species, like that multiple ape species had evolved into man, creating the races as independent species, and that Africans evolved from African apes, Asians evolved from Asian apes, so African apes are gorillas and chimpanzees, and Asian apes are orangutans, and that Europeans evolved from Neanderthal. Now, the idea was that if they could find the species that Native Americans evolved from, it would seal the deal on this. Even though he's forgetting Australia has its own populations of indigenous, genetically distinct people groups that that should be at least given some secret ape origin if you're going to do this multi-generational thing. I guess maybe they were accepting that people would make it to Australia, but not, or that apes would make it to Australia, like maybe when the before the flood. I think these people probably believed in that too. I'm sure that speculated on like forbidden history kind of stuff.
The ape encounter, indeed leaving it out of the official published record of the expedition. The main driving force behind promoting the discovery of the bipedal ape, Amaranthropoides loysi, was Montauk, and it would turn out that he had serious ulterior motives for doing so.
He is going to get into it.
Montauk was a known outspoken racist and endorsed this twisted view of human evolution, in which it was believed that humans had evolved independently from whatever ape species lives in the geographical area, an idea known as hologensis. For example, gorillas had evolved into Africans, orangutans into Asians, and so on, which was a theory that neatly fit into the overall popular racist notions of human evolution at the time. In this pseudoscientific theory, the existence of a large South American ape such as Amaranthropoides loysi would show that the people of South America had evolved from this missing...
Isn't that so gross? Like, early days of science. There were a lot of horrid ideas and terrible experiments, which we're going to continue on with.
Link, and would go a long way towards propagating and confirming these misguided ideas on human evolution. Considering this, it had been suggested that the whole story of Deloys's ape was merely an elaborate fraud perpetuated by Montauk himself to further promote and spread his racist theory of evolution. This notion of the Deloys ape as...
I hate when they his racist theory of evolution. It's not his theory of evolution, my dear. The theory of evolution belongs to all of humanity. He was just using it for nefarious purposes. Good morning, John Hudson. You're late. I hope you have a signed note from your mom or something so I can... I just don't want to have to give you a tardy, sweetie. You know. I'm glad you're here, though. You can take your seat and have your baked potatoes. Because you said if and you never ate a baked potato that was in the ground, dug up, and baked, you're never had a good baked potato fresh. Yeah. I think for me, every time I've grown my own potatoes instead of buying it from the store, I've always ended up with, they have like a really thick skin. I don't know what the story is with that.
A tool by Montauk for an erroneous racist school of evolutionary thought was first championed by such eminent cryptozoologists as Loren Coleman and Michael Reynal in 1996, and further written about by historians Pierre Saint-Livre and Isabelle Giron in 1998. Further driving the nail into the proverbial coffin of the Meranthropoides loici discovery was a letter published in the July-August 1999 edition of the Venezuelan scientific magazine Intercencia. The letter, first written in 1962 to the editor of the magazine, Diario El Universal, was authored by a Dr. Enrique Tejera, who claimed to have been on the very same expedition in which Delois had allegedly found the ape, and in no uncertain terms denounced the entire affair as a flat-out hoax. In the letter, Tejera describes how Delois was an insufferable prankster who was prone to trickery.
My mouse was being weird. I was trying to not pause the video, but to turn on the closed caption.
Was authored by a Dr. Enrique Tejera, who claimed to have been on the very same expedition in which Delois had allegedly found the ape, and in no uncertain terms denounced the entire affair as a flat-out hoax. In the letter, Tejera describes how Delois was an insufferable prankster who was prone to trickery and laughing at his own jokes. It was explained that during the expedition, Delois had adopted a spider monkey with a handicapped tail that was subsequently amputated, a procedure which Tejera claimed to have personally witnessed. Delois had then allegedly kept the monkey as a pet, naming it El Hombre Mono, or the Monkey Man, until it sadly died. Delois had then decided to take a picture of his dead companion, propped up on a box, and it was this photograph that had become the basis of the whole discovery of the South American anthropoid ape.
Actually, I just learned something new. That is the first time that I have ever heard that it was his pet monkey. I've heard that it was a monkey with a tail cut off and all that, but I had never heard. Yeah.
Tejera also claimed that the photograph had been modified and manipulated so as to hide the surrounding vegetation, make the box on which it was perched as nondescript as possible, and create the illusion that the mystery primate looked much larger than it really was. The latter ends on the note that Montauk was not a good person and was executed during the war for betraying his home country of France. Considering all of this, it seems clear that the story and photo of...
What he, got executed for betraying his country and all that nationalist patriotic crap. I don't know what he did to betray his country. I think he should be held accountable in history. Cat monkey sounds like a supervillain. I think he should be held accountable in history as like a racist, eugenicist person. Whether or not he betrayed the crown of France, I guess it would have been the crown of France. The crown of France has been gone for quite a while.
Anthropoides loici was an elaborate hoax perpetuated by Montauk, very likely for a racist agenda, and that the photograph is a cleverly crafted and manipulated illusion that shows merely a dead, tailless spider monkey arranged to make it seem more mysterious than it really is. Unfortunately, despite all of the evidence that points to this being an obvious hoax, as well as the denouncement as such by such eminent cryptozoologists as Loren Coleman, Carl Schuker, and Ivan T. Sanderson, there are those that still believe that the photograph could be of a new type of South American ape, and that Delois' account was possibly true.
Thank you, John.
It's still discussed by some cryptozoologists as being a possible real cryptid, maybe a specimen of a large extinct species of spider monkey called Protopithecus brasiliensis.
If you do visit here, do not come to Texas or go to Texas. New Mexico would probably be one of the safest places for you to visit if you were going to visit the U.S. I'd love to meet you and give you some reasons, Alira, if you decide to come to New Mexico.
Or of a large South American primate-like cryptid called the Mano Grande.
Mano Grande. Are we just playing
However,
this out now?
although there are those who wish to keep the mystery alive and discuss Deloise's mystery ape as a real potential cryptid, the vast majority of evidence seems to clearly show that this is a hoax, and it shows just how enduring these deceptions can be.
There's my Ryan. Hey, babe. Good to see you.
Thanks for listening. This has been another The Unknown Files, here on Unknown Territory.
Right, that was the Unknown Files take on this. We're not done yet, because the reason I like to talk about this is because I went on an adventure a few years ago, and I like to revisit it from time to time. So there's more recent sightings of the Mano Grande Monkey Man. And it's from the island of Itaparica in Bahia, Brazil. Anyone walking through the streets of Ilha de Itaparica in Bahia might be surprised by a creature that roams the area. According to residents, the sightings began after the state government imposed a curfew. The creature is compared to a type of ape man, werewolf, or even chupacabra. So this was like during the height of the lockdown, is when this happened. Is that all the story we get from it? Okay, so we have this picture, right? Which was fun to track down. So I'm glad back then I didn't have this information that the island it was on. I just knew it was in Bahia. So I had to do some sleuthing, but we did find our way there eventually. Because here's the state of Bahia. It's pretty big, all things considered. Pretty dang big. So we scroll in here, there's this little bay. And we're in like east central Brazil. And here's the island they're talking about. This island right here. There's lots of villages on it. Lots of little towns. Lots of resorts. This side's more like villages and small communities. But the city we're looking at, the city I was initially looking at, because the information I was able to find was up here. Eventually, I was able to narrow it down, right? And we made our way down into the streets here. And I spent quite a while exploring these little back roads, right? Trying to find where exactly that photo was taken. And there were a lot of things that stuck out to me. Specifically, specifically, this house, right? Which if we look at that, picture, looks an awful lot like that house. Now, because of the blurriness of the picture, this building looks all white, but if we go back in, I'm almost certain about this house, and the fence and everything looks very similar. Again, let's compare. Stone wall. House with 1, 2, 3 on that side. We go back and look, and actually, it doesn't have the 3 on that side. That's kind of interesting, because I'm almost certain, that we're right here. Looking that way. Almost 100% certain. Let's check this out. There's that sign. There's the flower pot. Yeah. So like, not quite from this tight of an angle, but I mean, if y'all disagree with me, let me know. But we can compare. There's even the pole there. That pole right there. Oh, the pole's right there. Okay, there's only two. That's the overhang. Okay, it looked like the roof went on over and there was a third window right there. So yeah, I'm trying to move on this one, but that sign is a church. I believe that's that right there. But unfortunately, they cut off the cathedral style window. This one right here, so we can't see that. But we can see the sign. And even the sign underneath it right there, you can see that. Right? That's it right there. We don't have a lot to go on, but that's a good base, right? I think that this is what we're looking at. And because we have this, we can kind of estimate the height of the individual. When I looked this up, it insisted it was CGI, which I'm not saying it can't be, but the blurriness of the camera kind of leaves that ambiguous. This was done before AI became efficient enough to make something like this. But if it's a person in a suit, which at the time I initially looked at it, I thought it was, we can kind of estimate their height, because there's the flower pot on the stand, and we have the flower pot on the stand here. Now, nobody's around it right in this position, but if we did they update it? There were people leaning on it before. Okay, but we can estimate it with, I was gonna say the height of the car, but yeah, we can estimate it with the height of the car right here. So it's about as tall as this car, which is a Fiata, which stands about 4.5 feet tall. So we're gonna estimate the creature is definitely under 5 foot, somewhere between 4.5 and 5 foot tall. Right? If we look at the surroundings of the creature. People working on the church. But yeah, so that video was coming from the Unknown Territories. Are they still making stuff? They haven't made anything in 3 years, so I don't imagine that they're still active. Had 3.1K subscribers, which isn't too bad. We have almost 1.5 subscribers. We're getting there. We'll get over that hump soon. But Unknown Territories, Old House in the Woods. When Lorraine Warren met Sasquatch. Yikes. Fucking Lorraine Warren. Hold me back. Hold me back. Anyhow, what do you all think? What do you all think of the Brazilian ape legend? The stories behind it. What are you gleaning from this? Let me know down in the comments. And remember to be kind. Take care. And we'll see you next time. All right, that was some Cryptic Corner for ya. Yeah, don't go anywhere. There's going to be more show coming. Oh, but I'm zooming out on my map here. Oh, I'm gonna take a quick second to take a drink of my coffee. And I think I have made the decision that I'm not gonna go to the block party. I'm sorry, I'm burping. Oh, Hood. Yes, please don't leave. I don't even know what I got set up for intermission. Let's see. Tommy's not here. All right, yeah, I'm gonna take a quick break. I'll be back in just a moment with some high strangeness for you. All right. Got the wrong logo up there too. I'm a mess this morning. There we go. We aren't doing mind over matter this week. Girl, get it together. How y'all doing this morning? I hope everybody's well. Hope everybody is having a nice start to their weekend. I know I am. I'm just a little in need of hydration, I guess. I'm gonna drink coffee first, and I'm gonna hydrate. But in the meantime, welcome to High Strangeness. We're gonna get high and look at some strangeness. So I hope you're here for it, because today, like, we're looking at a classic, but I'm not like outside like the niche, like anomalous researcher community. Not a lot of people really talk about this one. The Philadelphia experiment's kind of got this global sort of recognition. But today, we're talking about something called the Montauk Project, which, I don't know if we have any Stranger Things fans in here. I'm sure you do. I'm sure that my fandom overlaps with Stranger Things. All things considered. So, with that in mind, this is the origin story of what started the idea for Stranger Things and how it kind of evolved into what the show became. And you'll start to see that as this unfolds and they explain what they were doing. But yeah, let's just dive right in. Now I have this channel, which is oh shit, did that start playing? Oh, hold on, we're not ready for you, which is Pandox. See, an analytical YouTube channel that explores the mysterious, horrific, and paranormal, just like me. The video includes analysis of national park disappearances, declassified government documents, reported paranormal sightings, and more declassified. More declassified government documents. I'd be like, that would be such a perfect description. I would love that so much. However, let's see here. They're doing conspiracies. Oh, this missing scientist thing. That is weird. That's going on right now. Alien illnesses. That sounds interesting too. Bookmax killer. Ah! They got some wild stuff on here for sure. We'll have to revisit this just from the basis of that alone to give me ideas on stuff to cover. But let's go to Montauk. They went to Montauk, so we're going to too. And it keeps jumping ahead. I don't know why. Is that an ad? All right. Anyway, we're gonna. Like, I see the ads as little white dots on mine because I have premium. All right. Apparently we all woke up and chose violence. Yeah, Bugbot sure did. Bugbot's stinging everybody. Get himself under control. Okay, hold on. Is that muted? There we go. It's mostly been just ominous music for most of what's been going on. There we go.
Stranger Things premiered on Netflix in 2016. The series followed a group of friends who uncovered the supernatural and a government plot to weaponize the unexplainable. The show's original title was Montauk, an homage to the conspiracy of Stranger Things.
So the government absolutely would try to weaponize the supernatural if they had access to do so. You know it, I know it, we all know it. I'm gonna turn myself up a little bit too.
This story was only a series of rumors before 1992, when Preston Nichols published his book, The Montauk Project: Experiments in Time. It unveiled an operation similar to MK Ultra, where subjects interacted with substances and technologies purported to influence thought, manipulate time, and pierce dimensions. It was a story about government experimentation that included psychic development, extra-dimensional beings, and thought control. But unlike Stranger Things, many believed this story to be true.
Okay. I'm on board so far. Episode 1, The Philadelphia Experiments.
The history of the Montauk Project begins
because you can't talk Montauk without talking Philadelphia.
With an earlier conspiracy, the Philadelphia Experiment. In 1955, an amateur author and ufologist, Morris Jessup, published a book called The Case for the UFO. Shortly after, he began to receive letters of criticism from Carl Allen under the pseudonym Carlos Allende. These letters attacked Jessup's book for a lack of knowledge about the physics involved, especially Einstein's unproven unified field theory. The unified field theory describes an attempt to unify fundamental forces of physics beneath a single theoretical framework. For example, the theory would explain how electromagnetism and gravity are aspects of the same force. In his letter, Allen explained,
I would say they definitely have to interact with each other. I don't know. I need a physicist to tell me if I'm missing something, because I would think all the forces work together in a network to create our reality the reality that we actually physically live in, not the one we perceive. One we perceive, especially cultivated for your brain. It's not like how you see the world isn't necessarily like everything about it. Like there's so much that we don't see, and there's so much that we see that other species don't see. Like visually speaking, and then tactile. The way you feel something might not feel the same to something with a keratin hooves, for instance. It's different ways to experience the world. It's very different to all of us. To a deer, everything's stretched out on the side, on either side of the head. Be a really weird way to perceive reality, but their reality looks like that. So it's a matter of perception there, but the forces that we're talking about here are the ones that would transcend that sensory perception, right? It would transcend that, but definitely linked together to help us to navigate the world that we build with our mind. I digress.
That he had studied, understood, and witnessed proof of the unified field theory. He went on to describe the 1943 Philadelphia experiment. Carl Allen claimed to have been stationed on the SS Andrew Furoseth. In the summer of 1943, he claimed to have witnessed a destroyer escort, the USS Eldridge, push out from the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard with only a skeleton crew and orders to test a top-secret technology. Outside the harbor, the generators were engaged and an electromagnetic field was created around the ship. Strangely,
And here's the thing.
a green fog engulfed the vessel before it briefly disappeared. When it returned to the harbor, it brought with it a nightmarish and gruesome scene. Some crewmates had been vaporized. Others had been fused to the bulkhead of the ship. Surviving members complained of debilitating headaches and nausea. Most had succumbed to madness. However, not all of the...
Alright. Confession. I was one of the soldiers in the Eldridge that day in Philadelphia Harbor. I was one of the survivors. The headaches were just... the nausea and all that was just purging my mortal coil to transcend humanity. I'm functionally immortal, and I don't age, but I slowly get feminized as the years go by. But it also granted me the power to nap on Saturday afternoons after I take my meds. How old would that make me if I was a private on the Eldridge in, what was it, 1952? Or was it earlier than that? Hold on. When was the alleged... Oh, 1943, so I'd be super, I'd be super old.
missing crewmen had expired.
Hello, Zebra.
One would reemerge decades later with an even stranger story. His name was Al Bielek. In 1988, Al Bielek claimed to have uncovered hidden memories that had been sublimated through government experimentation. Bielek claimed that his actual name was Edward Cameron, and he had been born in 1916. He and his brother, Duncan Cameron, were naval soldiers on the deck of the USS Eldridge. When the fog emerged, the two men jumped overboard. However, they didn't...
You ready for some crazy time travel shenanigans?
...land in the Atlantic. At the 1990 MUFON conference, Bielek explained how they slipped through time at random until finally landing in 1983. The men appeared on site.
That's the year I was born, so keep that in mind.
At Camp Hero, a military base located at the tip of Montauk, New York.
They landed in Montauk. Ooh. Let's go look real quick, because I love, you know how much I love maps. So, Montauk. Okay, here's the Long Island, right? And Montauk is way down here, and Camp Hero is right here. We can actually go all the way down, and here, where's the dish? We'll drop down. We'll drop down, then we can see the dish. Womp. Yeah, the dish is right there. That's what this island, or this area, is kind of famous for. Does it show up on the map, though? Is it further back up into the... No, it has to be in this section down here. Maybe it's gone now. That would make me sad. Piece of lore like that just vanishing. So what's this derelict building? Is that can't be... It doesn't even seem to be shaped right. That's crazy that it doesn't seem to match up. And these are all old abandoned things. Why do these old abandoned buildings? I think it was rebuilt. Yeah, I think it must have been rebuilt. All right.
The military base at Camp Hero was commissioned in 1942 as a coastal defense station. A battery of weapons were installed to defend New York against German naval vessels during World War II. The U.S. military disguised the base as a coastal fishing village. The military buildings were fitted with fake exterior wood paneling, and windows were painted into place. In 1951, Camp Hero became an Air Force base with a semi-automatic ground environment installation. This radar dish collated information from smaller radar dishes that ran along the eastern coast. This information provided the U.S. with a 30-minute warning for an incoming Soviet nuclear missile attack. Preston Nichols.
They really thought we were gonna get hit with Soviet missiles.
Claimed to have worked on site at Camp Hero, and the following events are outlined in his book. While the Philadelphia experiment had been discontinued, much of the team and resources were relocated for further study under the operational name Phoenix 2, colloquially known as the Montauk Project. The operation was officially relocated to Camp Hero due to the retired SAGE radar dish that could broadcast between 425 and 450 megahertz. Similar to the Gateway tapes, the researchers wanted to
The Gateway tapes. I'm going to add that on here. For more high strangeness. There we go. Just adding it to my to-do list.
explore sound frequencies and how they could manipulate human consciousness. Researchers at Camp Hero began to utilize the retired radar dish by transmitting frequencies to a single chair inside of a safe, concrete satellite building. Bielik's brother Duncan Cameron was selected as the main subject for many of these experiments. He was exposed to pulse and wave frequencies, amplified by gigawatts of energy. Researchers noticed a correlation between the transmitted frequencies and affected moods. Cameron would laugh or cry, become agitated or fatigued. In fact, the entire base would fall under the influence of these frequencies, mimicking the same emotions. These experiments eventually took a toll on Duncan. Scarification of the lungs and brain tissue led to grievous injuries, but somehow he continued to walk the grounds and participate in their experiments. The researchers attenuated the signal from the radar and expanded their subject base to unwitting Army staff and civilians in the surrounding area.
And this is when we get into the good folklore of Montauk. Right? I'm sure I had that turned upside down. Unwitting Army staff, civilians, and this is the story that turns into Stranger Things.
The mapping of frequencies and their outcomes was only part of the experiment. They wanted to progress to broadcasting new, alternate realities. In the mid-1970s, the experiments included the Montauk chair. Using Helmholtz coils, a stable and unified magnetic field surrounded the chair and the subject.
This is how 11 was made, right? We all saw Stranger Things.
The first experiment they conducted was called the Seeing Eye. Subjects would be seated in the Montauk chair and given an item of significance, like a lock of hair or personal effect from a target. After concentration and training, they would be able to see through the eyes of their targets. This experiment is similar to the Stargate project. A U.S. Army unit from the late 70s confirmed by declassified documentation. The subjects were conducting remote viewings. It wasn't long until they could directly influence the world around them. They could
The Stargate project is also on the list. Maybe I should put that on the polls next. Do y'all want to have Stargate project on this poll next?
control inanimate objects and electronics, changing stations on radios and televisions, turning off devices, or even destroying them. Later, the subjects began to take control of civilians, causing them to commit crimes or behave erratically. As the experiments continued, researchers noticed that their results sometimes occurred on a longer time frame. For example, Duncan may influence events or manifest objects outside of the current time. This led to experimentation with time itself. Duncan Cameron created an aperture at 20-year.
What? Creating objects outside of time. Okay.
Intervals. A portal that would allow them to travel to the past and the...
I mean, hot take here. I think that matter as a property depends on time. Matter is a temporal state, right? So, as a temporal state, if time doesn't exist, matter doesn't exist. Are we all on the same page with that? I thought we all were. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I misread the room. But when it comes to time and matter and energy, all those forces, right? Time forces, whatever you want to call it, all those facets are all dependent on each other. Not on each other. Well, some of them are dependent on each other, but we get into that at a different point. But they're all dependent on a temporal fourth dimension in which to exist in, right? Right? Am I misunderstanding the physics of this? Please, somebody correct me. But it seems like if there is no time moving forward, there is no matter, no substance, no energy in existence until time starts. That's why people talking about, oh, what happened before the Big Bang? That's like one of the dumbest things I've ever heard, because there was no time before the Big Bang, before cosmic expansion. The Big Bang is just a derogatory term for it. But cosmic expansion, which is what Carl Sagan talked about, that's not just space and matter, but also time itself expanding forward, right? Moving forward. That's the concept of it. They're all intertwined with each other. If time stops, there can be no more movement forward outside it. I mean, can there be motion outside of time? Because for what is passing between point A and point B, if there's and how are you moving at all if there's no time? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting on a rant here.
The future. Researchers began to send soldiers and scientists to explore what was called hyperspace. It was during these experiments that Duncan began to report sensing a higher intelligence. Crew members fixed radio and video transmitters to exploratory crews, which fed a live feed back to the base in Montauk. They abducted vagrants from New York City to send through the portals, testing the effects of travel on the human body. Nichols claimed...
This is like urban legend shit right here. If you travel back in just time, you would end up in empty space, since the galaxy is moving about 2 million kilometers per hour. And that's like why, even if you kept it like they were somehow locked into our solar system, like when you watch Back to the Future, to land exactly where you wouldn't be able to. You'd never be able to replicate that. And the closest you could get would... Is my earbud dying? The closest you would get would be you could maybe land on Earth, but it'd be like thousands of years in either direction, right? Like you wouldn't be able to go back to the 1950s unless, like I said, somehow you were locked onto Earth. But even then, There's that subtle wobble. There's all sorts of subtle changes in the orbit of the Earth that's going to put you kind of wonky, be stuck with your DeLorean halfway in the ground. You know, your TARDIS would be between the Earth and the Moon, floating there, something like that. Because there's a slight wobble that's on we looked it up on Bad Science Sunday just last week. The wobble was every 26,000 years. Was that it? Or it was longer than that? There's one that was really long, and there's one that was like kind of short. The Milankovitch cycles were also considered, which are the Milankovitch cycles is when we're tilted at a certain angle at a certain distance from the sun. We get more, like a lot more solar radiation because of where it hits the Earth. I could be wrong about that too. We went over it a bit last week. If you missed Bad Science Sunday, I was over on Maya's on Sunday night, and that's what we did. Yeah, so it's good to see you, Mr. Feared. Hope you're enjoying the show.
That there was a large on-site library of videotapes for every mission, tapes he himself had watched. They began to abduct boys between the ages of 10 and 16 and send them through the portal. Their first training...
Like Will Byer? This is where the story from Stranger Things comes from, right? That's the chairs where they were working on 11, where they were doing her experiment to give her psychic powers or whatever, kidnapping the boys. That's what happened with Will.
Mission was always the same. They would travel to the year 6037 to a world that was in ruins and described as stationary and without life. They ran the transmitter non-stop to conduct these experiments, and the device escaped their control. It had fallen into synchronization with someone or something else. And some speculated this was the higher intelligence Cameron had sensed. This created some sort of rift.
I kind of wish they'd went with this idea for the big bad in Stranger Things too, instead of the Demigorgon.
Or aberration. It was then that a being was manifested on sight. Some claim it was a subconscious manifestation. Others claim it was the higher intelligence. Anyone who saw the beast saw something different. The creature attacked, destroying
Enjoy your lunch, John Hudson.
Equipment and buildings on site. Meanwhile, the transmitter could not be powered off or interrupted. Researchers attempted to disengage the power and disconnect the data cabling, but it wasn't until an acetylene torch was used to cut through the equipment that the aperture through time was finally closed. In conclusion, Nichols claims a team of Black Berets eliminated the majority of witnesses, and construction teams poured concrete through...
I don't know, that's, I'm off camera there from while I was watching that. I think I need to readjust my camera, because like when I sit in my natural position and watch the video, I'm like off camera. And I should be like over here. So I think the camera is a little angled wonky. To make it more natural. Yeah, here we go. That's more like it. I knew something felt off.
The halls of the underground base. The Montauk project was discontinued.
Yeah, I'm on there about every 3 or 4 months, Aunt Jer, so probably won't be my last. I mean, it could be. I don't know. Me and Maya have been talking about her coming down and seeing me. I have a show coming up too, so actually I have a show coming up in about 3 weeks. A drag performance. The conspiracy.
The Montauk project sold over 100,000 copies and became a cult classic in the early 1990s. Following its success, Nichols authored 5 additional volumes. Many heard the story of the Montauk Project, and they began to project themselves into the narrative. They swore they were Montauk boys that had been awakened, their sublimated memories resurfacing.
See, you can be a Montauk boy or a Philadelphia experiment soldier, but you can't be both. You have to be one or the other.
Just as Al Bielek had described. Stuart Swerdlow was a notable example. Swerdlow claimed that the Montauk Project targeted boys they believed to be expendable, those who were orphans or runaways. He claims they would fracture the minds of these boys by freezing, starving, and beating them. They would be tortured while under the influence of psychedelics with the purpose of expanding their abilities and making them pliable for future experiments.
Were they giving him superpowers? There's the comic book concept, the Montauk Boys.
Swerdlow would publish a book, Montauk, The Alien Connection, and it detailed some of his early life and involvement in the project. Some skeptics have pointed to Swerdlow's spotty history as a sign that he's potentially a grifter. Swerdlow pled guilty to embezzlement charges for taking hundreds of thousands of dollars from a local food distributor. After serving his time, he plugged into the...
Wait, what was the local food distributor? He might be a villain, but he might be a hero. Because... yeah, I'm not a big fan of factory farms. Not a big fan of banana plantations and big plantations like that. I do like bananas. I kind of feel like I need to stop getting them though, because I like orangutans better than bananas. I mean, I think I'm probably not the only one. I don't know how to consume tropical fruit ethically. Or sugar, for that matter. And they're like, oh, use corn syrup. Let me tell you, we've destroyed just as much ecosystem with our cornfields as we have with our banana plantations. It's just a different type of ecosystem. They suffer too. Just because it's not as faunal rich as a jungle doesn't mean they're not suffering. It's my Spooky. Hey, Spooky. Good to see you.
Montauk narrative and eventually transitioned to becoming a New Age advisor, providing psychic guidance for steep consulting fees. While some suspected Swerdlow of financial exploitation,
I want to be a psychic spy. How come he gets to be a psychic spy and I have to be a YouTuber? Life's not fair. I hear that in Jeremy Irons' voice talking to Simba. Life's not fair, is it, Simba? You get to be king. One day you will be king. I can't remember what he said at this. Swerdlow. Is that really how it's spelled? Sword.
others had even deeper suspicions. In 1998, Chris Ketchum wrote an article for Gear magazine reporting that over 25 boys claimed to have participated in the Montauk Project. They made the pilgrimage to visit Preston Nichols, some traveling across the country. These boys often came from broken homes. One example is Anthony Kraft, who had been in the foster system, suffering years of abuse before aging out. He was an addict and frequently spoke of delusions, and he was one that got swept into the conspiracy of the Montauk Project, traveling to Preston Nichols' home for a session of deprogramming. The deprogramming technique was called...
This be like satanic panic kind of stuff, right? Remember, was it Melissa Remembers? That book where she's like, yeah, I was... And then there was the preschoolers, the daycare in like Victoria, Canada. They were all like, the staff was all accused of being like a satanic cult because these kids grew up and they thank you. I like my hair too. Yes, it's very very late 90s. That's kind of my whole thing though. I'm like alt girl, but an alt girl from like 2 generations ago who never got to be a girl, so now I'm being an overgrown child basically, but I'm being me. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, but repressed memory, like pulling those out is Michelle remembers. Thank you, D. You're the MVP today. Yeah. Michelle remembers. And it's about the Satanic Panic.
Hand scanning. In an interview with another former Montauk boy, Brandon Kill, Ketchum uncovered that Nichols would take these boys to a bedroom alone, require them to undress, then massage their bodies while he claimed to be scanning for frequencies. Then, he would begin to touch the subjects inappropriately. These subjects were over the age of 18, and they firmly believed
the McMartin preschool was in Manhattan Beach, California. Yeah, it was Michelle Remembers that took place in Victoria. I had that flipped around. When D said Michelle Remembers, I remembered because I marked it on my map, the location of the cemetery that she said the satanic rituals took place in. Because at some point I do want to talk about that. Not anytime soon. I'm thinking maybe closer to Halloween. I guess that is sooner than later. But yeah, and we'll talk about all the accusations and the repressed memory, like pulling that shit out, and how flawed that whole thing is.
Been participants in one of the most elaborate government experiments ever conducted. When confronted about the deprogramming process, Nichols and his subjects told Ketchum they had received no pleasure in these sessions. They were simply a grim necessity. Nichols claimed to have...
Why is he smiling then? He was... No. That's like... That's grape apologetics. Do you like... But, like... I mean, I'm assuming they're joking and stuff, but... This is... I don't... So, I'm like pro-nudist. Like, pro being naked. Like, for most people. So, like... even for religious stuff, I'm like, you want to get naked with your little group, you want to pray naked. I support all of that. But like obviously there's exploitation to be had in those situations if things aren't handled respectfully. So be careful who you're, participating in this stuff with, for sure. But like again, I'm all for like I have been all the time. Me and my first wife, we lived at this house out in the country with a little pond out in the back. We'd mow it all down, and there was a little willow tree and everything. We'd spend hours back there naked, just like hanging out and fishing and swimming and climbing the tree, and we'd be doing all kinds of stuff. I don't actually recommend climbing trees naked. Put some shoes on. Make it a lot easier. But that being said, it's something I support. But and yeah, as someone who's been part of a lot of new age stuff, I've spent a lot of time naked with other people. It's mostly in the dark, Aunt Jer. Though nude beaches are a thing. I've never actually been to a nude beach, but yeah, if you're going to a nude beach or something like that, then you probably want to wear some good sunscreen. I wear SPF 70 myself, just anytime I go out, really. Tan that butthole. Dang, John's getting right into it. Are you doing the perennial sunning? Where you stand on your elbows and stick your ass at the sun? It's a place I'd rather not get bugs on. Yeah. Use bug spray too if there's bugs. Definitely. though climbing trees might be problematic. It depends how like our ancestors were doing it. You need to it sounds like skill issues, Spooky. I don't want sand in my crevices. You got like an Anakin Skywalker kind of vibe there too. You're complaining about sand getting everywhere. We went to the Rio Grande down here. I think it was in Mesilla. But the water was kind of up. We took Nyla out there. It only got about like hip deep on me. Though I got down in the water, I sat down. But you get out there. I got out there on the sandbars and the dog running around splashing. It was freaking lovely. And I even said that while I was sitting out there on the sandbar and feeling the sand shifting beneath me in the rushing river. And I'm like, fuck you, Anakin Skywalker. Sand is amazing. But I think there's an important distinction there. I like sand when it's underwater and moving. Because I love the way it smooths my skin. Having sand grind on my feet were so soft for days. They feel all grubby now. But yeah, they felt so soft. It grinded down my calluses. And yes, it was quite lovely. So it depends on the context that you're dealing with the sand in. Under no context do I want sand in my cracks, though. But I don't think wearing a bottom changes that. I think wearing like a swimsuit bottom or shorts or anything actually helps keep the sand in there, because like that's the one place that I'm guaranteed to have sand when I come home from the river or the beach. Now, if I don't have any sand anywhere else, if I've rinsed off at the thing at the beach really good, don't have any sand on me at all, when I get home and get in the shower, strip down and get in the shower, there's going to be sand in my cracks down there, right? Because the swimwear holds it in. I don't know how we got in this conversation. We're supposed to be talking about Montauk. Montauk was an island. They probably had a beach. Did they let the Montauk boys go to the beach occasionally? Maybe to use their powers to summon fish?
Stopped these deprogramming sessions in late 1998.
You missed the other ape, Kevin. Trusty Ape is in the house. What is up, Trusty Ape? Yeah, we covered Mondo Grande for Cryptic Corner. Now we are on to Project Montauk. So if you were here to get your ape on, if you were here to go ape, you missed the opportunity.
Since Camp Hero has closed, the government has tried to sell the land for real estate development. However, environmentalists protested at the slightest rumor of an exchange. As a result, the site was turned into a state park in 2002. The derelict buildings and remaining underground tunnels are off limits to the public, but urban explorers have trespassed into these areas with the hopes of uncovering some proof of the Montauk project.
So, we just looked at it, and it looks like it's like a public access area, like a park. Picnic area? Oh, very, very off limits and derelict. I mean, yeah, I guess you can't drop down in there, which, a lot of parks are like that, but, let's see. Here's the road. And look, it looks like Camp Hero West Gate. Okay. Well, there's the tower. It does show up on this one. We were way over here, though. Ooh, there's the big satellite. Look at that. That looks so cool from this angle. Oh, that's awesome looking, actually. From this angle, this whole thing looks like a video game layer, and you could control, you just like select the group of Montauk boys and move them forward, and they could each have different powers, and you gotta try to storm the underground tunnels. Yeah, I'm like video game brainstorming looking at this. That's cool because they got the big dish, and then they had, where's that? They had the radio tower, and there's lots of little outbuildings. And what's this? What is that? Oh, picnic table. That's a picnic area. Yeah, I'm not getting the vibe that they're trying to give this place, right? I'm not picking that up. And yeah, that thing was just a lot further away than I thought. I was like, is it this building earlier? And it's way over here. But the mysterious nature they're trying to apply that this region has is kind of betrayed by like the picnic areas and the public bathrooms and the access there's another picnic area right there. Maybe that's the same one. No, there's more picnic tables. So this thing's like it's like a state park. It's not like forbidden. I mean, I imagine that there may be underground spaces under some of these buildings, cellars, maybe even some tunnels between them, because tunnels is cool. There might be tunnels between some of these buildings. I will tell you that digging tunnels under forest is not as easy as you would think. As a matter of fact, it would be because you would be able to see where the tunnels were because they'd have to tear out all the trees. The trees would grow back eventually, but you would still see where the strips were. So the thing to consider is that maybe tunnels under the roads could be a thing, or in areas like this where there's no forest between the two buildings. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
One explorer, Brian Minnick, discovered a tunnel underground that had an oversized, heavy door with a spindle lock, like a bank vault door. Minnick uncovered rooms decorated with psychedelic wallpaper, and many have posited that these rooms were used for some of the experiments.
Far out, man. What are the chances? Okay, there's two options here. That these are old holdovers from the 80s of images that have been in this derelict, rotting building and have maintained their color and psychedelicness. Or option two, some taggers broke in there, picked a room, and painted it all psychedelic. Which do you think is more likely? And it would make more sense because if the art was looking newer and fresher. Catch up on my chat real quick. They want to look through the eyes of the fish and make them jump into the net. Oh, taking them to the beach. Yeah, trust the ape. You're gonna have to go back if you want to get caught up on your apiness. If you're primed and it's 2 a.m., it's probably spooky. Yeah, the park. Maybe it's like Mystery Flesh Pit State Park. I used to, there was a time before I got into like understanding all the problematic stuff with AI. I used to like love those Flesh Pit AI pictures, and back in the early days. That's what they want you to think. Family save, and then when your guard's down, you come up missing. Ooh, how many people do you think go missing at this state park every year? Yeah, it's the missing 411, right? David Pilates will be on board with you. It's aliens. Of course it's aliens, D. It's always aliens. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. I have to go now, unfortunately, says Alira. I'm glad you were able to join us this morning, or this evening for you, Miss Alira. So, thank you.
Most notably, Minnick claimed to have discovered records that indicated vast quantities of food purchased for Camp Hero in the late 1980s, totaling to over $80,000 per month, even though the base had been officially decommissioned well before.
Yeah, every one of those picnic tables, and I have the buttons right here. I'm the master of Montauk. I push the buttons and drop them down into the secret tunnels and let them wander around for a couple hours, sometimes for a couple of days. Depends on how I'm feeling before I allow them into a chamber where I keep spooky bed hair. Episode 4, the Montauk Monster. Okay, now we're getting into a little cryptozoology,
In
but I'll allow
July
it.
2008, a strange and discolored creature washed ashore near Camp Hero. 3 girls walking along the beach at Ditch Plains stopped to inspect what they thought was the body of a son.
Have none of these people. I'm sorry, maybe my Missouri origins are showing here. Have none of y'all ever been? I mean, I'm gonna say raccoon hunting, but we just called it with just the C. And it wasn't, as far as I know at the time, it wasn't meant to be derogatory. But I refuse to say that word now. It's not my word to say. But this is like when you go raccoon hunting and you skin the raccoons. Boom, there you go. I mean, the head's different because you don't really skin the raccoon's head, but it's been
Baked
decayed.
dog. It had cloth-like bindings around its legs, and it had what looked to be a beak instead of a snout. An image taken by the girls was first published in The Independent before it was picked up by Gawker and circulated nationally.
I want to be clear that that's definitely
Lauren Coleman,
a mandible and not mandible, or maxilla and mandible, and not a beak.
the director of the International Cryptozoology Museum, traveled to New York, but by the time he arrived, the body of the creature was gone. At first, people speculated the creature came from the Animal Disease Center on nearby Plum Island. Perhaps the creature had escaped from the laboratory and died in the water. However, later visitors to the Animal Disease Center confirmed that security measures were extensive and an animal escape was unlikely.
All right, Plum Island. Oh, we're upside down. Hold on. Whoosh, there we go. All right, Plum Island is small. That's not it. Where's Plum Island? There it is. Yeah. It's not too far from Montauk though, for real, but here's Plum Island. I'm assuming this is the research facility. All right. We've got lots of stuff going on. There's Fort Terry Hospital. Kind of little tiny island has its own hospital. There's the harbor and the port buildings. Yeah, so that's Plum Island.
Others began to speculate that the creature was the result of experiments conducted at Montauk, that somehow the aperture had never closed. An unidentified source told reporter Drew Grant that he and some friends had discovered a dead raccoon and given it a Viking's funeral, setting it alight and pushing it to sea. Lauren Coleman would later confirm that this theory was the most plausible. He explained that decomposition combined with impacts of rough water can cause what is known as slippage, when skin and underlying fat separate from one another to cause the distorted appearance of the Montauk Monster. However,
Basically what they're saying is they wrapped the raccoon in cloth that was soaked in oil, put it on probably a makeshift raft or even just a piece of driftwood, and kind of cast it out to sea. Which I'm fully willing to believe would result in the body that we see
in
before
2020, there appeared another creature on the beach of Montauk. It was almost identical to the first, and it appeared shortly before 4th of July, the exact same time of year
Show, don't
as
tell.
the creature from 2008. For some, this bizarre coincidence points to a more supernatural explanation. The Montauk Project is another entry in a long catalog of conspiracies, an attempt to not only explore but weaponize the human mind, to stumble into the strange gap between known and unknown. This is the story that gave root to Stranger Things.
That's my goal in life. I need to stumble into the strange and unknown. Please put me on that path. Oh, great masters of the universe, like He-Man. Yeah, give me a sword of power. I kind of have the hair going on right now. Oh, I have the power. I could be, would be He-Man, maybe She-Man. Oh, boom, gun shell. That's what I got. Don't come looking for trouble. There won't be no trouble. All right. I think that's about it for this. What's he got to say? He's going to talk about Stranger Things for a second.
And yet, certainly, there are stranger things to come.
I mean, they are. I guess they're trying. Oh, I don't mean to go to your Patreon. They're trying to really pop off on that Stranger Things vibe for sure on this channel. Like old VHS kind of stuff. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. I think that if we are going to go explore like a forbidden place. I know probably like Skinwalker Ranch is pretty close. Roswell's really close. What else? I say Montauk's pretty far off. I'd have to have reason to go up there. But I do have a friend that talks about moving to New York all the time. So, I mean, I could make that a thing if I ever get up there. But dang, the show's ending like super early this morning. I guess that makes sense. I'm feeling cruddy, but yeah. Sometimes I think 3 hours is probably a bit too long anyway. I try to make my segments between half an hour or between 45 minutes and an hour. But sometimes I manage it, sometimes I don't. But I would love to visit Montauk. I would love to visit Roswell. I'd love to visit Area 51, Skinwalker Ranch. I think my brother just recently went to the Honey Islands in Louisiana, where the Honey Island swamp monster and the Rougarou live. We talked about the Rougarou pretty recently. But yeah, I think that that about wraps things up for me, though. So remember to, well, I gotta go solo for this. To be kind, take care. We'll see you next time. For real, chat, thank you so much for sticking with me. I don't know where I'm sending everybody. Let me see what's going on. What do y'all feel like doing? I got time to spare. Redirect. All right, let's see. R and Raw's going, which is a production of my friend Peter. Could send you guys over there. Or could send you all under the ocean to see the Nautilus. Have like lots of under the ocean channels I follow. I need more stuff on here, especially more cryptid stuff, so I can send people over to cryptid channels and whatnot. Guess I'll send you all over here. All right, tell Peter I sent you when you you get there. There we go. All right. But I'm going to wrap up. I don't know what I have on the end here. Same thing as last week, I'm sure. All right. Be kind. Take care. And we'll see you next time